Hello, YouTube. Welcome back, everyone. Computer is currently quote-unquote fixed, so let's get back into the videos. Today we'll be taking a look at the mod Legendary Weapons by Space Lettuce OG. Legendary Weapons mod adds 9 unique endgame weapons into the game. Legendary Weapons also includes 9 unique NPCs and 1 recruitable NPC, and a bunch of dialogue to make everything fit seamlessly into the world of Kenshi. This mod also features 6 new, unique ruin locations with custom designed interiors. Most of the weapons are roughly equivalent of a metal weapon, but they have various perks to them not normally seen on vanilla weapons like armor piercing and modified weights. Each weapon is gained through a sort of quest-like method. Weapons. In this section, we'll cover the weapons you can earn, loot, or find in the world without specific focus as to where you can get them, as that will come a bit later. These weapons do feature unique textures and models. They also are all completely unique, meaning you will only get one per playthrough. Crimson Storm, a weapon that was forbidden from being used by the superstitious emperor of the time, as the master smith that forged it said it was imbued with his pure hatred for the Second Empire's enemies. A rather long saber for its class, it focuses more on cutting than it does balance like other sabers. It has 17% bonus to cutting and a 10% bonus to human damage. While it can be blocked with decent armor, if it connects with skin, it will shear limbs clean off with the appropriate skills. Dominion's Quarrel, a blade forged by a master smith Rubaz turned cannibal. His cannibalism was tolerated by the emperor and the nobility of the time only because he would make the sharpest katanas of the time. This blade is rather unique. While it doesn't boast as much cutting damage as a normal metal quality katana, it however has less negatives against armor. This includes skeletons and their natural metal exterior. Boasting a whopping 20% less negatives against armor and skeletons, you will find this particular katana can carry you well into the late game against heavily armored opponents. Dynastys Revenge, a sword designed by a smith who was part of a dynasty of smiths that had worked for the Second Empire for over 300 years. This hacker class is also a solid late game choice. Compared to a combat cleaver, you'll notice that this is heavier, which gives it more base damage, but it also has a +4 attack bonus and a +2 defense bonus. It does 5% extra damage compared to the combat cleaver to skeletons, and it has no negatives towards animals. A hefty hacker class can serve many characters very well. Enda, a legendary Nodachi that was designed to be more straight than a typical Nodachi. This thing feels perfectly balanced too. Another katana class type weapon, we have Enda, the legendary Nodachi, a perfectly balanced weapon according to its description. This weapon again boasts rather large differences in comparison to the Nodachi, with its much smaller penalties to armor penetration and skeletons, thus making this another solid cutting style weapon that can carry you into the late game against armored opponents. Kirvis, a strangely shaped axe meant for combat that is strangely effective against armored opponents and robots alike. A hefty but balanced weapon earned by the favor of a queen. This weapon tears through armor and flesh, +4 attack bonus, and no indoor penalty make this thing a boon in close combat indoors. Hitting as hard as a paladin's cross without the downsides is an amazing weapon all on its own. It also has a +10% damage instead of a -10% damage to animals and humans compared to a paladin's cross. Reaper's Gale. This weapon was crafted by a master smith who was married to the greatest warrior in the Second Empire at the time. Comparable to the Naginata in game, this spear has more cut, less blunt, and less defensive bonuses. However, it does come with a solid 10% extra damage to human type enemies. Filling a very particular niche in game with the Polearm class, it's useful early to mid game and has some exclusive uses later game. Tempest Stampede. 10,000 shall fall, still 10,000 more. Comparable to the falling sun, many players will love this heavy weapon. Slightly less base blunt damage, this weapon is 15 kilos heavier, making the weapon damage scale much higher. Pair that with +15% armor penetration, +4 attack bonus, +10% to robots and humans, and +35% to animals. This weapon is an endgame maxed out game ender. You will need prosthetics to wield this weapon effectively. However, Losing your mortal flesh for this beast of a weapon is more than enough to see your character cut massive swaths through hordes of enemies. The Dominator. The design of this weapon is unorthodox, but clever. Comparable to the Moon Cleaver, this weapon sees less blunt and cut, but has more bleed than the normal Moon Cleaver. No defense penalty, less bonus to skeletons, but more bonus to humans make this another niche, but solid weapon to pick up. Vigilantes Judgement. A legendary mace said to have been designed to shatter the bones of a warrior in full plate armor. Comparable to the spike mace, this weapon has slightly more cut, less blunt, and +2 attack bonus. It also comes with a +20% to skeletons and a +5% to humans. It weighs 9 more, giving it a slight edge when paired correctly for the right fights. All of these weapons can be overpowered if you center a build around them with mods. Players can see them exceed damage normally reserved for Maytaus if they are properly built around. However, most players will have preferred builds and playstyles, making these weapons unlikely to be dealt with early on until players can loot them and earn them from their quests. Those very quests, which we will talk about next without spoiling too much. Quest locations. Simple and short, let's go over the locations of the people who know about where to find these weapons. As a heads up, you will need to pay attention to what these characters say. They will not repeat their dialogue. This dialogue is not meant to be handholdy, so they will not repeat their dialogue. I won't spoil too much beyond the locations for each quest giver, as I think each vault can be found relatively easily if you pay attention to the dialogue or do some search-based exploration. Bear in mind, if you're watching this video in hopes of learning vault locations and enemies for the base mod or for Genesis, I will not be spoiling those. A couple notes here, all NPC names you're looking for will be called Retired Tech Hunter X. Replace X with the name of the Tech Hunter. One of these characters is also recruitable for the player. You can find Turtle in Heft. You can find Karma in World's End. You can find Pixie in Flats Lagoon. You can find Mares in AdMag. You can find Rue in Black Scratch. And you can find Yama in Catan. All recruits should spawn through all overrides for all city populations unless you've murdered them, of course. Thank you everyone for watching. If you liked the video, leave a like. If you have any suggestions of what mods I should do next, leave them down below in the comments section. I'm Atlas and I am out.